So I got a haircut and I cleaned the garage. Let's mess it up now. All right, so what we're gonna do today, we're gonna make a step stool for the wife's salon. I've never done this technique. I'm not even really sure if there's a name for it. If you know what it is, leave a comment below. But basically, we're gonna multi-sandwich layer plywood. Made a template, marked the template out on this plywood, which I'm not worried about the footprints and all that, because A, it'll be sandwiched in between the pieces, so you will never see them. I'll do some light sanding, but it's ultimately the edge that I need to make purdy. I made a calculation of how wide I wanted it to be, divided that by 3/4 of an inch, and that gave me the quantity of pieces, which happened to be the perfect amount for this scrap piece of plywood that I had. It's 11 layer, I believe. I could sit here and count them, but that'd be boring. But it's a super multi-layer birch, so it should give it a really cool design once it's on its edge. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll throw some epoxy on it. My wife loves epoxy. I love epoxy. And so yeah, let's get to the cutting. Hang out with me. Here we go. All right, there's the stool. I think it's great. I think just leave it. Throw a little epoxy on that, should be done. But no, we're gonna move over to the router next. We're gonna router it up. And yeah, time to clean up. Cleaned up. Hopefully the time lapse loads. It's nothing more frustrating than filming something and it not working. And this is a freaking brand new iPhone. Who knows, one of these days maybe I'll get a real camera. And maybe one of these days I'll get an X-Carve CNC machine so I don't have to do what I'm about to do. But a boy can dream. All right, we're gonna router these things. So I am gonna use number 8 1/2-inch screws to adhere the template to the pieces, which I will then router out with. I just roughed them up. I mean, you can see they're rough. Hey! But, yeah, I know I could use double stick tape. Just not really in the mood right now to deal with that. On and off, on and off. Plus the screw holes are all going to be hidden. And yeah, no one will be the wiser. Stop barking at me! Dog gets freaked out whenever it's on camera. Okay, here we go. So that didn't work at all. This material is too thin to use as a template. And what happens is the gap between the bearing and the cutting edge, the router head, is too big. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna actually dial in one of the full-size pieces and use this as my template. Don't judge me. It's dad perfect. And there you go. Focus. That's how it's supposed to be. All right. 17 more. And there they are. Actually extremely happy with how it turned out. Not too shabby. Obviously need to get a new router bit. Thing's burning pieces up. But I know it's hard to tell right now, but after I get them all sanded, it's gonna look sick. I like the design. Like I said, it's simple, just something to get my feet wet. Looking at it now, I probably, yeah, for sure could have made those corners a little thinner, which would have given it a little bit more aesthetics, but I'm not mad at it. I'm gonna live with it. I think it's gonna be sick. Hopefully it's not too heavy. Anyways, all right, time to glue it up. she is. Looks like something out of a torture chamber, but you know, it's coming along. I'm liking it. All right. Come on back. She'll be dry. We'll sand her up. Do the thing with the router. Again, around the edges. Make her pretty. Okay, so I'm impatient, and this has been drying for probably about 2 hours now, and I want to start sanding it. So here we go.
she is. I love it. This thing is solid. Definitely could thin those up. So I learned my lesson, but I don't know. I mean, I still like it. Of course I love it. I made it. But again, for being a trial run, yeah, I can't wait to make more of these things and thinner. And at this point, push the limits to see how thin I can make it. I will say though, for aesthetics, this birch is not the best. Tons of voids in it, which I heard people say that's the reason why they don't like this plywood. The veneer is super thin, and there's lots of empty space in the middle, which I never really noticed before. I mean, not this bad, but you can see where the glue up for when they make the actual plywood is just terrible. But it's okay. Like I said, this was a trial yet practical usage of this technique. And yeah, I'm super stoked on it. I mean, I worked on this for maybe 4 hours today, so it's not like I invested in an amazing amount of time. It's probably going to take me longer to epoxy it right now than it's going to be to have built it and sanded it. So let's see what else we can do to this thing. Okay, so it's time for epoxy. This is just going to be a top coat to fill all the holes. And I mean, obviously it's end grain, so I know it's going to suck it up like a sponge. But this will allow me to come back in a few hours and do a flood coat. Maybe add a little color. I don't know, I may bring the wifey out here, have her play around a little bit. And yeah, we're almost there. Now I'm just gonna apply it with gloves, because again, I'm just trying to spread it to get it in all the holes. I'm not really caring about texture right now. It's gonna do what it wants to do. We'll clean it up later. Okay, so the first coat's dry. You can almost even still see the reflection on the side. But yeah, that end grain just absorbed every last drop of it. And it did leak a little bit, so hopefully all those holes are nice and plugged up. And we can put the flood coat on. All right, so we got the pseudo flood coat in. Still had some holes. I was kind of convinced those were sealed up, but they weren't. I typically do tape the whole underneath side, but kind of thought I would try a little different tactic. But that sparkle, oh, that sparkle, still turned out great. Reflection's good, sides are good. I'll probably put one more just clear coat on there. No sparkle in it. See what that does. I'm really not in the mood to fill and sand and polish and buff. Just kind of wanted to pour it and be done. But still got a little bit of time left tonight. I could probably let this sit for an hour or two. Allow all this underneath side to harden up. Hopefully it plugs all those holes. And then we can go after these little dimples. All right, let's let her sit. Here it is. She came out perfect. I did go back and add a second coat of epoxy last night, and I think it paid off because it is so shiny, so soft, so smooth. Really happy with how it turned out. It's not that heavy, it's still manageable. But yeah, like I said, for my next one, definitely gonna try and thin it up. Ultimately, as much as I possibly can. Like I said, I wanna test the limits now. Plus, I feel like it'll give it way more of a modern feel. I don't even know what you would call this style, but it's done. And next she'll go in there. Be a step stool, footrest, bench for little ones, whatever you wanna use it for. Multi-purpose. All right, peeps. It's been fun. Thanks for hanging out. And see you on the next one.